Guys, what's going on? My voice sounds a little weird. Sorry about that. Happy Wednesday, guys. Sorry. I want to thank you guys for being patient with me. I usually have been scheduled to go live on Tuesdays, but some things came up yesterday that I just didn't have the time to have the opportunity to go live. So here I am today. So thank you guys for joining me today. I have so much to talk about, and I think that I'm going to do things a little bit differently in this one because I think that we need to kind of break down the Texans game a little bit more than we have or I have any other game before. I think this game was really it was very up and down, honestly. So I feel like there's a lot that we need to talk about. Like I actually kind of broke the game down by halves and then also by the drives. So there's a lot to talk about. Definitely going to talk a lot about Mac Jones and Matt Judon, as you can tell by the title. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to talk about the biggest issues in this game because, of course, there are still issues. And a lot of those issues were still very prominent in this game, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So let's just jump right into it. So obviously we know the Patriots won the game 25-22. They are now 2-3, and the Texans went 1-4. But if you watched the game, it kind of looked like it might have needed to be the other way around because the Texans were not looking like a team that was just blown out the week before by the Bills. They were looking like the far better team, the far better prepared team, better coached team. It was just a hot mess at the beginning. Obviously, the Patriots, did halftime adjustments, and they kind of got more into the groove of things as the game progressed. So thankfully, we came out of that game with a win. I think a lot of people were predicting that was going to be a Patriots blowout. I am almost never that optimistic. I don't even know if I was ever really that optimistic when Brady was around. I tried not to be like that because I just, you get your hopes up. So obviously that is not how the game went. So let's talk about the first half first. So the Texans came out and they scored on probably one of the longest drives ever. I can't remember what they said about it. It was actually a 10-minute drive. I think it broke some records or something. I don't know if it was the longest drive the Texans have had. I don't know. It was it felt like forever. It felt a lot longer than only 10 minutes. They started at their own 21. And this is where a continued issue happened in this game. Again, it was penalties. This was another one where J.C. Jackson was getting flagged a lot in this game, which is not common with him. And unfortunately, on the first drive, there was an incomplete pass on 3rd and 8. But because J.C. Jackson was flagged, that helped continue the drive, which then led to a touchdown. But it was another theme of the day, a theme of this weekend, I think, which was a missed extra point. Thankfully, Folk only missed once in this game because the theme, like I said, this Sunday and even into Monday, the kickers were just missing everything. They were missing extra points and field goals. It was a hot mess. Thankfully that, wasn't something that the Patriots had to deal with because they unfortunately needed to get a lot of field goals in this game to keep themselves from not getting blown out, basically. Then the Patriots got their first drive. They actually got a touchdown as well. They got handed a great spot on the field because the kicker, of course, not doing well. He kicked the ball out of bounds, so New England started on their own 40. And this is when Damian Harris came alive again. He got a touchdown from 1 yard out, and this is when Nick Folk missed. So thankfully, that is the only one that he missed in this game. Nick Folk has been thankfully quite reliable once again this season. But what I thought was interesting was before this game, I can't remember who said it, but Jake Bailey was kicking field goals before the game, and a reporter said that he actually hit a 60-yarder pregame. So I believe Belichick touched on this a little bit as well. I don't know if it was in the post game or if it was just in some interviews or press conferences this week so far. But he did say that, if they need to use Jake Bailey as like a field goal kicker or whatnot, then they have him because they said that he's been doing really well with it. And we know that Nick Folk is dealing with an injury to his plant leg, I believe. So it's possible that has contributed to, some of the issues that we've been seeing where, he did miss the extra point in this game. And then we all know, of course, that he missed the game-winning field goal against the Bucs last week, which granted, obviously it was the rain and it was a 56-yarder or something. So it was pretty far, but still it's something to keep in mind. Luckily they do have Jake Bailey and he's a well-rounded guy. So I like that idea because I guess we're not going to really see the rookie kicker this season since he did get injured. And then of course they took him off, and I don't know if he's on IR or what he's doing now, but anyway, let's continue. So the third drive, Houston scored another touchdown. They started at their own 25, and this was just a very, very short drive. I believe it was just over a minute. I think it was the second pass of this drive that Davis Mills threw to Chris Moore, who had just been elevated from the practice squad for that game. And it was a 67-yard touchdown pass. So because of this game too, it's irrelevant now, but it's just an interesting note for anybody in fantasy that plays fantasy. Chris Moore has now been put on the active roster, which great for him. You always want to see a guy succeed, but it kind of sucks that it came against the Patriots because he had this great game against the Patriots that now it's like, oh, maybe we should have you on the roster. But yeah, that was not the best, obviously. But again, the kicker did miss the extra point. As I said, that has been a theme this weekend and it continued in this game. And then I liked this little note that Mike Reese had about specifically like on this drive was JC Jackson's early struggles on third down were hurting the Patriots defense. He was in position on that catch and run touchdown, but doesn't make the play on the ball. And then Devin McCourty also he opened up space for Chris Moore to run by. So that's what ended up leading to the 67-yard touchdown run. And I believe that McCourty even talked about that he did not play well in this game. So it seems like the defense started off pretty weak, and I think we all can agree to that. It was just not what we have been seeing this season. And the fact that they can admit it is good and that we're not crazy. Because I know that a lot of the time, if you're on Twitter at all during a Patriots game, there's a lot of very quick reactions, like knee-jerk reactions to games, and we can be very overly critical or dramatic with our reactions. So, sometimes what we're saying or what others are saying is not completely accurate. It's just that we're upset about what is currently happening. But McCourty, of course, confirmed that no, he was not playing well. And he did... he blew up on that play. So New England got the ball on the next drive. They drove it all the way down. And Damian Harris scored once again. But and on the field, it was called a touchdown. Now, this is a very controversial play that was very annoying to have to deal with. There's a lot of mixed emotions. I want to see what you guys think about this. Do you guys think this was a touchdown? Do you believe that it should have been reversed? I'm curious because I saw some Patriots fans that were telling me that it was very clear that he lost control of the ball before crossing the line. So they believe that the call should have been reversed. I want to see what some of you guys have to say in the chat. So let me know. So, of course, it was called a touchdown on the field, but it was shockingly reversed. They believe that he fumbled before the goal line, so it was a touchback to Houston. I'm still a little conflicted with it. I feel like there wasn't really a true angle that showed you definitively that he fumbled before he got into the end zone. But, it was just, it's one of those things where, one, they didn't even show us the angle that they claimed proved that he did fumble before the goal line. And second, usually that kind of thing when it's a little bit hard to tell, which is what we were seeing in the constant replays, generally whatever is called on the field stands. And so it was a little bit shocking that they reversed it and then never showed the angle. It was just, and the fact that they called it a touchdown right after the play. So another unfortunate situation. And so obviously that was the second week in a row, their second fumble by Harris in the red zone this season, which again is another issue that the Patriots have been dealing with, is especially running backs. I mean, ball security has been an issue, but it seems to be the running backs that have been the biggest issue this year. Ron94 says Damien Harris fumbled. He punched it out, but hold to the ball, period. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree. I would have to watch it again, I guess, maybe now that it's a few days later and emotions aren't as high because, the game's over. But in real time and from watching the game, I really don't think that it was a fumble. I think that some people might, they're going to disagree, of course, but it is what it is. So that was not fun, but luckily, Houston only got a field goal out of it, which, of course, we don't want them to score at all. But that drive was not helpful either. It was another drive that J.C. Jackson got a penalty, which helped continue the drive. He got a penalty on 1st and goal, so it took it from the New England 4 to the New England 2. But this is where Matt Judon finally broke out of his shell, I guess, because the defense wasn't doing anything that we had really been seeing them do this season. But this is when Judon finally came alive, which was towards the end of the first half. He got a sack on 1st and goal at New England 7, so it brought it back to the New England 9. And then on the same drive, Judon got his second sack of the game on 3rd and goal for a loss of 9 yards, which eventually led to them kicking a field goal. So Matt Judon is completely killing it, guys. This is somebody that we should be extremely thankful for to have on the defense. It seems like he's very well loved in the locker room. I was seeing Dante Hightower was complimenting him. A lot of people were really excited about Jamie Collins being back. I think it was Hightower actually that said having Jamie back in the locker room is basically like having a second Judon, that they just bring such positive energy. So I really love that. I don't know if you guys can tell from my Twitter, but I just am obsessed with Judon. So I'm so happy that he is on the team. We will get into specifics of his stats and stuff this season because he's on pace to just be amazing this year. So we'll get into that a little bit later when we break down the players. But yeah, I agree. Faisal says, I'm really impressed on our unity. I am loving it. I know that I feel like I say this every year, but I just feel like there's something special. And I feel like I said, I say this almost every year. I feel like it's probably not every year, but there's just something really to be said about, like you said, the unity of the team and how much they care for each other and play hard for each other, how well they like prop each other up, and just they're like a really true team, but they seem to just genuinely care about each other. And it doesn't matter what side of the ball they play on. It's like defense will be out there for offense. It doesn't matter. So I think that's really cool, especially with how many new players are on the team this year. And then, of course, having a rookie quarterback. I mean, I don't think that this team could be any more complimentary to Mac Jones than they have been. Which is really cool to see because, of course, I can't imagine what it's like to be a rookie quarterback and you basically find out a week before the season starts that you are going to be the starter. Obviously, none of us expected that. And so to see such a huge amount of support from him from the entire team is really cool. So I agree with you there, Faisal. And then, so after that, to close out the half, New England got a 52-yard field goal, which then ended the half New England 9 and Houston 15. So we were still in it. Guys. Although I feel like that first half took off some years of my life, if I'm being honest. So the Patriots did get the ball after the half, which the first pass of the drive ended up being a deep pass to Aguilar that was intercepted on their 44-yard line. And this led to Houston scoring a touchdown once again. This time it was a 37-yard pass to Conley. And Jeff Howe at the Athletic said the Patriots defense has allowed Davis Mills, a third-string quarterback, for all intents and purposes, to engineer 4 scoring drives in 4 possessions. So I think some people were saying basically what everyone was assuming was going to happen in the game against the Bucs the week before is basically what Davis Mills was doing to the Patriots instead of Tom Brady. I think that the way that the game went against the Bucs was more of what people expected to be against the Texans, and that's just not what happened. Davis Mills was having a crazy great game, and just the week before, I mean, he couldn't get anything done. So that was, I think that was when a lot of people's pessimism started coming in. I'm not gonna lie, I was right there with you. So then on the next drive, New England had to punt, and then Houston punted, but it was blocked, which then helped New England get the ball at Houston's 36, led to another field goal, a 52-yard field goal. Then Houston punted again. New England got a 32-yard field goal in the next one. The next drive, Houston missed a field goal at 56-yard field goal, which then set the Patriots up on their drive for a touchdown, which was to Hunter Henry. So the Hunter Henry and Mac Jones connection is finally continuing and getting hot. This is the second week in a row now that Hunter Henry has had a touchdown pass, and he's definitely standing out above Jonnu Smith, which I think that a lot of people are enjoying. I think that people are excited about both guys coming in, but I think that the biggest shock was the fact that they were able to attain Hunter Henry as well. I mean, I think once we saw that Jonnu Smith was coming, it was okay, that there was no way that they were going to also get Hunter Henry. So I'm loving it. I needed one of the tight ends to come alive, if not both of them. But, it's exciting to see that Hunter Henry is doing well so far. And I want to see more of that connection with Mac Jones. We need somebody to be reliable because obviously we like Jacoby Myers, but he's being treated as the wide receiver 1, not only in the snap counts, but also by defenses. He's being covered all game long. And of course, he has set the record for the most amount of receptions without a touchdown. And unfortunately, he wasn't he really close to getting a touchdown in this game, but he missed the catch, even though he was wide open. And it was just come on, you're rooting for him to get that first touchdown. And it just feels like it's never going to happen. So Hunter Henry got let me double check the numbers. 13-yard touchdown pass. This is when the game was tied at 22. Then on the next drive for Houston, is when Jamie Collins came alive. He got a sack on 2nd and 8 at Houston's 27, and he got -8 yards for it, which forced Houston to punt. So Jamie Collins is making a name for himself once again. Of course, we knew that he was probably going to play because he's been on the Patriots for so many times. Obviously, he didn't need a week to catch up on the playbook and get acclimated because he was added to the team. He's been there. He knows everybody there. So it was really great to see that he was active for this game. And what's crazy, this is something I was going to talk about in a little bit, but I want to just talk about it really quickly right now. He only played 3 defensive snaps and 6 on special teams. But so in those 3 defensive snaps that he played, he got a sack. I know that it was still against the Texans, which of course they have a questionable offensive line and, a 3rd-string rookie quarterback. But the fact that they were able to, or he was able to play so few snaps and still get a sack is really exciting to me. And I hope that we continue on that path with him. I like him being back on this defense, especially with Hightower, Van Noy, Judon. I'm excited. So I thought that was really cool. And then the next was another field goal, which ended up being the game-winning field goal for New England. This is where N'Keal Harry did get his one. He had an incompleted pass, to N'Keal Harry, and they got very lucky on this drive. They got a roughing the passer penalty, which helped because that was going to make it, I believe, 4th and 17. So that gave them obviously a first down, which helped continue the drive, which then led to a 21-yard field goal and gave the Texans the ball with 21 or 15 seconds. I wrote down 21, but for some reason I want to say it was 15. I believe they took over when it had 15 seconds left. And they ended up fumbling, and it was recovered by Judon at Houston's 47. But that was negated because, once again, like I said earlier, J.C. Jackson was on a roll with these penalties this season, or this game, excuse me. He got a penalty for an illegal blindside block at the end of the game. Fortunately, like I said, it was at the end of the game, so it wasn't something that drastically impacted the rest of the game. They just got a field goal, so they were up 25-22. But it is kind of lame that it ends up not being added to Judon's stats because he had a pretty great game. So let's get into all of the breakdown of this game. Obviously, with the title, as you saw, there's emphasis on Mac Jones and Judon. So let's get into Mac Jones first. As always, he was 22 of 30 for 231 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. This was another game that he had above a 73% completion percentage, which he has done now in 4 of his first 5 games. And this is the first game where he is finally credited with a game-winning drive. So although it did end in a field goal, it is very exciting that we finally got something and not just, like the red zone issues are certainly an issue, a big issue this year. So we'll get into that again in a little while. And then I just have some random facts, guys, because we want to talk about Mac not being able to throw downfield. And that is something that a lot of people are having issues with, of course, especially the people who don't like the Patriots. So I did want to mention this, that Mac only threw 2 passes that traveled more than 20 yards down the field. So, but he did have 92 yards on passes that traveled more than 10 yards. So, I mean, I guess that's a little bit better than what a lot of people have been saying, especially when you see his passing charts that, Next Gen Stats puts out, or PFF puts out. So, he's not dinking and dunking. He's just doing what he has to. And I think it's kind of silly that people want to nitpick. I think that people forget that he is a rookie, despite not really carrying himself as a rookie. Let's see. Okay, so when the score was 22-9, the Patriots ended up having 4 consecutive scoring drives, and Mac was 11 of 12 for 106 yards and a touchdown to end the game. So, of course, when we talk about leading the comeback, that certainly was led by Mac Jones. He did what he had to do to help win the game. He wasn't thrilled with his performance, and he's the first one to admit it. Feeling that, he gave the Texans too many opportunities to have the ball offensively. But Belichick seems to be still happy with him. He said this week that Mac's been good for us all year in terms of his leadership, his resilience, and always counting on him to do the right thing. And he really does it at a high level. So it's been impressive. Okay, guys, I am so sorry. My cat always has to make herself known when I am streaming. She doesn't like it when I'm not giving her all of my attention. So if she makes an appearance or two, I apologize in advance. So that, like I said, like we were saying earlier, like Faisal was saying, is the unity. We like to see it. It seems to be from top to bottom as far as we can tell. Belichick seems to very much believe in Mac Jones. And I think that is definitely a confidence boost for him because, that there's a lot of pressure on him to be successful, not only because he's the starter, but the team that he went to. He went to the Patriots, and they're used to success and going to Super Bowls and winning games. And so to have that type of support from the head coach, who is arguably the best head coach to ever be in the NFL, then I'm sure that is a good feeling for Mac. And then he has broken a few records. So he tied Joe Burrow for the most completions by a rookie quarterback in his first 5 games, which was at 135 completions. He's also the only rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to have a 70+ % completion percentage on 30 attempts in 4 of his first 5 games. The only other quarterbacks to have multiple games in their first 5 starts are Dak and Carson Wentz, surprisingly. And I thought this was interesting too. This is because, guys, I am not a big fan of the Chiefs, but I had to throw this in here because I thought it was a very interesting fact. Greg Rosenthal tweeted that the Chiefs' opponents have shut down big plays. Mahomes has fewer 20 yards or more completions than Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Jared Goff, and Taylor Heineke. So the fact that he has for Mac to be nitpicked about not having a lot of deep throws, I think that we all know that Patrick Mahomes is the king of these deep throws, and he's not having a fantastic year, but Mac Jones has more 20 yards or more completions than him. So that's pretty cool. Mahomes is put on a pedestal, and in some ways it's rightfully so, but the fact that Mac has a better statistic than him in quite an interesting category, I thought was interesting enough to share with you guys. So this game, we certainly got a better game in the rushing department. Damian Harris was on a roll again. As we know, like I said, he would have had 2 touchdowns in this game. He had 14 carries, 58 yards, and was credited with 1 touchdown and a fumble. But he was injured in the game, his ribs. And as from what I know is, I don't think it's super serious from what I've read. He was at practice today, but didn't fully participate. So I don't know what his status will be for the rest of the week or for the game. But that's when Stevenson got his shot again. So he was active for this game. And we weren't sure if he was going to see the field too much, obviously, because he's been in the doghouse for 4 weeks. But he actually did okay in this game. So Bolden had 2 carries for 25 yards and Stevenson had 11 carries for 23 yards. He did have a touchdown that was negated as well. I swear that I mentioned that somewhere, but let's see. I swear I typed that up. Anyway, I guess I didn't write it down. So anyway, they did have far more yards this time. There was 30 carries for 126 yards and a touchdown. As far as rushing goes, we know that, just last week they had -1 rushing yards. So it was good to see the running game come alive again because they need it. For receiving, I am loving these numbers. Hunter Henry, 6 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown, followed by Jacoby Myers, 4 receptions for 56 yards. Aguilar, 3 receptions for 32 yards, blah, 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 blah. Goes on and on. There was a total of 23 receptions, 231 yards, 1 touchdown with an average of 10 yards per reception. Certainly a lot better than what we've been seeing this year, and not a dink and dunk quarterback. That's I think what people love to say about any Patriots quarterback at this point. So I wanted to get into this too. Faisal mentioned it a little bit earlier. The O-line was surprisingly good, according to Faisal. And yes, they were. I think that was something that I emphasized a lot in my stream on Saturday before the game. We all had been talking about, we were worried because there were 4 offensive linemen that were out for this game. And so they were going to have backups and, bench guys playing, but they actually did better than when starters were playing, which was a little crazy. So they only allowed 2 hits on Mac Jones in the first half, which is great because he's been getting knocked on his butt a ton this season. 12, I believe he got knocked down 12 times just last week. So the fact that he was able to, let's see, where did they end it at? He got hit only a total of 5 times in this game. Certainly a lot better than what he's been dealing with. And they also didn't allow a sack until the fourth quarter, which was the only. Oh, they got. Wait, yeah, was it? Yes, only 1 sack for the entire game. Again, much better than what we've been seeing. We've been seeing 3, 4, 5 times. And this was a thing that we said was, and we emphasized that to be successful, we need to keep Mac on his feet. Certainly, there are things that he needs to work on. I know that a lot of people were talking about some mechanics, but things that are pretty easily fixed. But keeping him upright is always going to be better than having him on the ground. He was under pressure 25.8% of his dropbacks, which is the second lowest in game this season for him. And Ted Karras was a beast in this game. He didn't allow anything to happen. He didn't allow anybody to touch Mac. So I know that we saw a lot of people talking about Karras should be a part of the starting lineup for the offensive line, even when those 4 starters that are out right now do eventually return. And if he can keep on this track, then I am totally for that. Obviously, Karras is very familiar with the Patriots as he was only gone, a year? So I'm all for it because Mac needs that type of protection. And who knows what the status of some of these offensive linemen who were out last week will be this week. I haven't seen any update on who was it, on Wenu and Isaiah Wynn, who were put on the COVID list. We never got any details about vaccination status or which one was only a close contact and not a positive test result. And so I don't know if we've gotten any updates, really. I would assume that we should by the end of the week. And as we know, Trent Brown is on IR, so he won't be back. But I believe Ted Karras should definitely be a part of the starting lineup. And the quarterback hits that were allowed were by Cajuste, Ferentz, Hunter Henry, and the sack was actually allowed by Brandon Bolden. So they've been trying to bring in these guys to help on the line on certain plays, of course. And so Brandon Bolden allowing a sack, I would say not at all surprising, is that it's not his usual job. But, it is what it is. At least it was only 1 sack in this game, which is pretty crazy because if it wasn't by Bolden, it seems like he wouldn't have been sacked at all. And Mac is quoted as saying, because he wanted to make sure that he gave lots of credit to the offensive line, he said, I don't know if we outplayed the other team, but we outcompeted. Sometimes you just have to find a way to win. And he wanted to make sure that he credited the offensive line because, of course, that has been like the biggest talking point. I think the biggest issue that everyone's been talking about this season so far. And I don't know if you guys saw that video of the linemen walking off the field after the game. They were hyped, and I was excited for them because obviously, as a fan of the team, you want them to be successful, but you also want to talk about the issues on the team. And when they have been an issue, it's not, you can talk about it in a respectful way. It doesn't just have to be so-and-so sucks, blah, 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 blah. Although sometimes that's the case. I don't know. But I was just excited for them to see that they were excited, and they did. They had a great, great job. So hopefully they can do that against a tougher opponent this coming week against the Cowboys. Certainly that will not be a 3rd string quarterback and, basically one reliable receiver in Brandon Cooks. They have a great offense in Dallas. And JC Jackson did do a great job at shutting down Brandon Cooks. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do because the Cowboys have Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, who else? I don't even know. I can't even think about all of them right now, but they have a stacked offense. So a little bit scary, but we'll talk about that on Saturday. So let's get into Matt Judon, my favorite player on the Patriots right now. Such a great guy. I swear. This guy is so awesome for this team. Of course, we already mentioned that he did get 2 sacks on the same drive. He did have a fumble recovery, which I said was towards the end of the game, but I believe it's not credited to him now because of the JC Jackson penalty. So that negated that. He now has 6.5 sacks through the first 5 games. I want to say he had didn't he have 10 last year? I'm going to double check that. So give me 1 second. But I believe in his final year with the Ravens, I want to say he had 10 sacks. Oh wait, no, he had 6 sacks last year. Okay. So his highest was in 2019. He had 9.5 sacks. And right now he already has 6.5. I can't remember. I think that someone said that he's on pace to hit 20 sacks this year. Can you imagine? Last year, now I'm going to have to look this up. I want to say that the Patriots had a total of 10 sacks last year. 2020 stats. And obviously last year we know the defense was not what we want to see, but I believe that they had 10. I think it was only 10 sacks last year. Let me see if I can find these defensive numbers really quick. Sacks. Okay. So no, did they have 24? Really? Why did I think 10? Why? I am crazy, guys. Just ignore me. Anyway, the sack leader last year was Chase Winovich with 5.5. So obviously they've already Judon's already beaten that, which is crazy. Definitely what the Patriots defense needed. The pass rush was what was one of the biggest issues last year, which seemed a little bit worrisome this year coming into this season. And Judon is just taking it all upon himself to steer the ship and get these big plays. So I'm excited. And what's crazy is he's now breaking records because of his performance so far. So he passed Chandler Jones under Belichick in 2015 with 5.5 sacks, and Andre Tippett with 5.5 sacks in 1984. He is on pace to become the 6th Belichick era Patriot to record 10 plus sacks in a season. So he would join Chandler Jones, who did it twice, Vrabel, Mark Anderson, Andre Carter, and Tully Banta Kane. So those are some great names to be in the conversation with. And I would assume he's going to pass 10 sacks pretty easily. I'm knocking on wood here because I don't want to jinx it, but he's already at 6.5, and we still have quite a long season to go. So I'm sure he'll pass that no problem. And this is an interesting stat too, guys. So we need to put into context his numbers compared to the rest of the league. So there's only 2 players in the entire league that have more than 5 sacks, more than 8 tackles for a loss, and more than 20 combined tackles. So it is Matt Judon and Myles Garrett. So we all know that Myles Garrett is a big defensive name that everyone loves to talk about. Obviously he's not Aaron Donald, but Myles Garrett is up and coming. He's a young guy, certainly a great defensive player. And the fact that Matt Judon is right on pace with what Myles Garrett is doing is fantastic. Also, I want to give a shout out to Dont'a Hightower. So Gerard Mayo basically summed it up best when he said this week, if you were to look at Sunday's stat sheet, it really doesn't pop off the stat sheet like, wow, this guy had a great game. But if you were to watch the film and see his overall physicality, I would say it was by far his best game. So Hightower was graded an 80.3, which is the highest graded defensive player on Sunday by PFF. He had a hurry, 5 tackles, and 4 run stops. And it was his highest graded game since week 5 of 2019 against the Washington football team. So I spoke on Saturday about how he's kind of been going under the radar, been kind of quiet this year. And so I'm like, did he hear me? Because he came out on Sunday and, he might not have had these big plays like Judon or Jamie Collins, but he was doing what he had to do and he was doing work and doing great, back to the type of stuff that we need to see from Dont'a Hightower, the Dont'a Hightower that we all know and love. And that's something too that I think that we need to keep in mind, what Gerard Mayo said, that the box score, the stat sheets, they are not the end all be all. They don't tell the entire story. As much as we love to rely on them to see how certain players did and what they did good and what they didn't do well at, it doesn't tell you the whole story. So, things that you do that are great on the field, it doesn't always translate into a statistic. So it is very important to keep that in mind when we're talking about certain players, because, you don't have to get 2-3 sacks in a game to have been competing the entire time and did great things on the field to help your team win. So that's my TED Talk today, guys. Then I wanted to talk about JC Jackson, as I've mentioned a few times in this little stream here. He had a pretty bad first half with the penalties. Third quarter, he did much better. He shut down Brandon Cooks on 3rd and 2, which then was followed by the blocked punt. So, he held Brandon Cooks the entire game. It was actually insane. And then on the second play, he stopped him on 3rd and 7 in the fourth quarter, which stopped him from getting a first down. And then that led to Houston going for a field goal, a 56-yard field goal, which was missed. So although he was penalized, like I said earlier, in big penalties, especially he had an illegal shift penalty. Oh, no, that was Myers. Sorry, my bad. We'll get there in a second. He did get those penalties that, were not helpful whatsoever. He did shut down a big threat in Brandon Cooks, which I can't imagine was an easy feat with, we know how speedy he is just from watching him throughout his career, but especially, if you are a Patriots fan and you watched Patriots games when he was on the team. And he didn't give up any pass interference penalties, which is good because, as I said as well last week, Brandon Cooks is very, very good at getting those types of penalties. So good on JC Jackson. Jalen Mills. So he was not in this game. I don't know his status for this game. Haven't really seen any updates on him. But I think his absence was certainly felt. Jawan Williams was starting in his place because, of course, we know Jalen was injured, but he was benched after he gave up the flea flicker touchdown in the second half of the game. And I would say that as much as Jawan Williams has moments of being a great player, Jalen Mills would not have had the same issue, I don't think. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see him back this week. I don't know how severe his injury is. I don't think we've gotten a whole lot of updates on that, but I'm hopeful that we'll see him back. I think he's been doing a lot better than most people anticipated him to do this year. I know he wasn't a favorite signing, but he's actually doing really well. So the Patriots defense did have, since we're talking about the defense basically this entire time, they did have 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 4 tackles for a loss. So they were definitely getting their hands on Davis Mills, which is good. But then at the same time, of course, we know how well Davis Mills did. He actually was 21 of 29 for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had an amazing day. He was basically able to do anything he wanted all game long. So, although the defense was able to get sacks and hits on him, it certainly was not slowing him down. The best part is, of course, the Patriots were down 22-9, and they were able to make sure that the Texans offense did not score again, to increase that lead, which then helped, of course, the Patriots offense to get a last second field goal to win the game. So got to give credit where credit is due. It's just, I don't know that we can say that the defense as a whole was fantastic. So as I said at the beginning of this, I want to talk about the biggest issues that came out of this game, some of which have been an issue basically all season long. And these were the ones that stood out to me. So penalties, again, we've been talking about penalties all season long. This was another game where it was an issue. Christian Barmore got 2 holding penalties in this game. Although he did pretty well in the game overall, those holding penalties obviously are never good. It's just kind of, it just depends, because it's kind of just like a lazy penalty. And then, of course, we know referees can be kind of pick and choose when they call holding, because it kind of feels like, on every play there's holds, but like they're not called that often. So there have been some egregious holding that we've seen, especially if you want to reference again the Patriots versus the Bucks. There were some very bad holds on Matt Judon that were not called at all during that game. So it's just one of those things that kind of just depends on what referee you have. Another penalty was when Myers got an illegal shift, which was in the fourth quarter. Stevenson got a 4-yard rushing touchdown, but it was nullified by Myers' penalty on 2nd and goal. And this ended up being what led to the game-winning field goal, which is great. So it still ended in a positive way for the Patriots. However, obviously taking away more points by taking away the touchdown is not good. So regardless of the end result, they got the 6 points out, or I'm sorry, the 3 points out of it. Would have been a far more comfortable lead had they been able to get a touchdown out of it. Then of course we talked about this as well. It was a bad first half overall, I would say, for the team in general. It was just, I think a lot of us were sitting there just kind of scratching our heads and wondering what team we were watching, because it was not the team that we have been watching this year. It just seemed very, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I think I tweeted during the game that it just felt like they weren't playing with heart. And I feel like it's not really the team that the Patriots just always seem a very passionate team. And so just to feel like they weren't playing in that way that we're used to seeing, it was just kind of disappointing. And, of course, they came back out after the half and played far better than they did in the first half. But we just need to make sure that they can do that the entirety of the game. You never want to play catch up, of course. And they got lucky that they were able to do so and then end up winning the game. But you want to see that type of play for all 60 minutes. I think even if you guys watched the locker room celebration video, I think even Belichick gives them credit for like 30 minutes of good football, which I don't even know if we've ever really seen him do that. Usually he'll say, that was a good game of football. You played through 4 quarters, blah, 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 blah. He basically says, though, I don't remember the direct quote of what he said, but he says something about that was a great 30 minutes of football or whatever. And he's right. I mean, they played great football for 30 minutes. So hopefully that is not a trend that's going to continue. These things that they need to work on, especially like you can't be starting out slow like that. You can't be starting out lazy. We can't be getting these penalties, and especially ones that take away points, or extending drives, because that was another thing. They kept extending drives. So, you, like Faisal said, yeah, you can't play catch up in every game. You can't do it. You need to start off, you need to start off games with more points. Obviously, the whole point of the game is to win, obviously, but it's a lot harder to play catch up than it is to, stay where you're at and add to it. And then since I just was briefly talking about that, they allowed the Texans to continue, or they had successful 4th down conversions. So that was another issue. And it's happened a few times this season in other games as well. They allowed Houston to be 3 of 3 on the day in their 4th down conversions, which is just so ridiculous. Some of them were not even they were too big of plays to have been allowed. I mean, I remember there was one point where they were going for it on 4th down and they were not covering. I don't remember who was on the right side, but no one was covering this guy. And it's what are we doing here? It almost seemed like they wanted them to continue, and it just didn't make any sense. They were 6 of 14 on 3rd down. So, I mean, I guess they buckled down on that. But of course, we know that the Texans were trying to get a little cute in the game. And that's when their issues started. But they felt really confident because they had already gotten 3 4th down conversions. So why not try to get cute and do more? Obviously, another issue that they cannot continue. You need to get that offense off the field. Defense needs to come alive before halftime. We can't be waiting until after halftime for you guys to come alive and do your job and get things done. We can't be doing that. Max turnover worthy plays. So this is another interesting one. So was it PFF? Okay, so he had 2 turnover worthy plays in the game on Sunday, and now his total for the season so far is 8. So that is something that I think that a lot of people have talked about as well, that some of his throws have been a little bit scary and they've gotten either dropped by the defensive player or were like this close, like it's sometimes he's trying to do too much or throwing into a small window that it's just like, what he's trying to do, but it just wasn't a smart throw. He's very aware of this too. If you've watched his post-game press conferences, he's very aware of some of these throws and that he shouldn't be doing it. So obviously 8 seems like a high number. I'm not too familiar with these numbers and like how that fares against the rest of the league. But I'll have to look into that maybe, and we can talk about it on Saturday. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today was the Patriots not finishing plays in the red zone and settling for field goals. So that was a big issue in this game. Obviously, they were 2-5 in the red zone. Excuse me. And that has been an issue all season long, where they've had to settle for field goals. And luckily, they have a reliable kicker, knock on wood, once again, in Nick Folk. So they don't have to worry too much if they have to kick a field goal. But 3 points is not as good as 6 points or 7 points. So that is something that they've needed to work on. I mean, this game, they had 2 touchdowns and the rest were field goals, and they ended with 25 points. So, not ideal. And I'm not even really sure what the issue is exactly, and why they're not finishing drives. So, that's just, I don't know. It's something that they have to get together, because we're getting into more tough games, and that's not going to fly. Field goals are not going to fly and help you win every game. We're not going to get opponents with third string quarterbacks like the Texans, or you're not going to be able to shut down every number 1 wide receiver like they did with Brandon Cooks. It's just not going to happen. So they need to get better about converting in the red zone, and hopefully they can figure that out sooner rather than later, because like I said, these tougher opponents, you're not going to be able to get away with that. So let's see what you guys are saying before I end my stream. I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. I feel like I had so much to talk about today, so I'm glad I was able to talk about all of it. Let me just close this and see what you guys are saying. D22 Williams says, on contestable catches, wide receivers must move aggressively towards the ball, mainly because the DBs damn sure will move aggressively toward the ball. Where is wide receiver coach Troy Brown on this big problem? Yeah, that is a thing too, and that's something, like N'Keal Harry hasn't been very great in the red zone, but he's been talked about to be a red zone threat, and they're not really using him in that way. I mean, he's even spoken about wanting to be used in the red zone. Obviously, Jacoby Myers has not scored a touchdown yet. Not completely his fault, but that's an issue. I think we need to explore the tight ends, because it seems like they're one of the more difficult guys for defenses to be bringing down this season, and they're getting touchdowns pretty easily. So they definitely need to incorporate them more, and it seems like they're going to be at least incorporating Hunter Henry more, because he's being great the last couple of games. And I wanted to also mention this, D22 Williams again. He said, just put a message about your chat on Patriots Press Pass. Good stuff, Sarah, but we need to spread the word. Very much appreciate your support, your constant support. I saw your comments on my last stream, and I really appreciate you guys trying to help spread the word about my channel and get more people to watch and interact with me. I really appreciate that. That is really awesome. I've thought about trying to share it with some other places, like Facebook groups, but I have a lot of issues with Facebook groups, and they consider like sharing your YouTube channel, or when I was writing articles, they considered that like promoting yourself, and so they would either not allow me to post, or I would be able to post and then later on they would delete them. So I haven't even tried to post my YouTube channel on any of them because I assumed that I would run into the same issue. But if you guys have any ideas about where else I can like post and just spread the word about my channel and my videos, let me know in the comments. That would be awesome. Don't forget to subscribe. And hopefully soon I will be able to use my green screen. And I'm also hoping to do some more videos, like pre-recorded videos as well. So I won't be just live streaming. You'll be able to see this face more often than just twice a week. So just trying to get a lot of stuff together. I have a lot of ideas. And like I said a million times, and I'm going to say it again, I really appreciate you guys watching with me today, interacting with me in the chat, any comments that you guys leave for anyone that watches the replay. And just, I am so thankful for your support, guys. It's been a rough couple weeks for me. And so seeing your support is really awesome, honestly. So thank you so much. And, I will see you guys on Saturday and we can talk about the Cowboys game. So have a fantastic Wednesday and I will see you guys later. Go Pats.